How are you feeling today? Have you ever looked at the woman you love and felt as if she had disappeared? Not disappeared from the house, but from herself. One morning, she's still there, brewing coffee, making breakfast for the kids, and talking about the family trip. Still the same voice, still the same figure, but somewhere, something has changed. So small, so subtle, yet it makes you shiver. She no longer laughs at the things that used to make her laugh, no longer looks at you with the same eyes that once softened your heart. That gaze, now distant, cold, and strange, as if it's looking through you towards some place in the past. You ask, "Are you okay?" She smiles and says, "I'm just a little tired." But deep inside that smile, something is cracking. One day you notice she's quiet longer than usual. Another day you see her standing before the mirror longer, trying on clothes she never used to wear. And when her phone lights up, you suddenly realize that smile no longer belongs to you. Then that night, as the two of you lie side by side, you hear a faint sigh. Not a sigh of fatigue, but of emptiness. And you wonder, what just happened to that woman? The one who once cried in your arms, dreamed of this home, and swore she would never change. Now she feels like a stranger living under a familiar roof. Not angry, not unfaithful, just absent in spirit. This story isn't only yours. It's happening everywhere, quietly, unspoken, because it touches something the world avoids confronting: the psychological price a woman pays when she crosses 40. No one teaches her how to grow old. No one teaches her how to live when she is no longer the chosen one. And in that emptiness, something begins to rise, silent, fierce, and uncontrollable. No one realizes this. Inside the psychology of every woman from a very young age, a time bomb has already been planted. It doesn't explode because of tragedy, nor because of heartbreak, but because of something seemingly harmless: time. At 20, time is your friend. It gives you light, attention, compliments, and the gazes that make you feel like you exist. But then, the years pass, and at that same time, the old friend that once lifted you to the highest place slowly begins to take back everything it once gave, not all at once. It begins with small changes that only a woman can feel: a strand of gray hair, a faint wrinkle, a different kind of look when walking through a crowd. No one says anything. But she can feel the invisible shift in the air, as if the world is quietly turning its back, slowly, wordlessly. And in that very moment, a deep mechanism within the psyche begins to activate. It's like a self-defense process of the ego. When everything that once defined her value, beauty, allure, the gaze of others, begins to fade, her brain starts searching for another source of energy to replace it. But if she cannot find it, if there is no other foundation strong enough to hold her together, her psychology begins to crack. That's when the countdown starts. Not a physical bomb, but a reconstruction of identity. She begins to ask the questions that have been buried for 20 years. Who am I if I'm no longer desired? What value do I have if no one notices me anymore? Have I been living for myself or for the gaze of the world? Those questions have no simple answers, and when they remain unanswered, they transform into a kind of chaotic energy that silently flows through the mind, creating unease, until one day she wakes up, not to live differently, but to run away from herself. From then on, you begin to see her change, not because she wants to betray, but because she's fighting against something far scarier: the disappearance of her own identity. She doesn't realize what she's losing is not youth, but the alignment between who she is and how the world sees her. That bomb, no one can defuse it, because it's programmed into the very way we teach our daughters to understand their worth. And by the time they reach 40, it only waits for one final spark to detonate, the thought that they are becoming invisible. Since childhood, a girl is taught to smile, to be gentle, to know how to make others like her. Before she even understands what value means, she already knows that being called pretty matters more than being recognized as smart. Every compliment, every admiring gaze becomes a tiny brick silently building her sense of self. Society doesn't tell her she needs to be capable, only that she should know how to behave, know how to dress, and know how to look good. She grows up surrounded by advice wrapped in affection, but they are, in truth, psychological commands. A girl must know how to take care of herself. A woman must have someone pursue her. If no one loves you, your life will be hard. Each of those sentences over the years rewires her brain, and by the time she's 18, she already believes that her existence is proven through the gaze of others. When someone pursues her, she feels worthy. When no one notices, she feels small and visible. But the frightening thing is, society doesn't just teach her to be beautiful. It teaches her to confuse being desired with being loved. That is the first misunderstanding and the root of all the tragedies that follow. At 25, she steps into the world like a blooming flower. The gaze of others is her wind, her sunlight, and her water. Every compliment makes her feel alive. Every look makes her believe she has meaning. And when love arrives, she doesn't only love the man, she also loves the version of herself reflected in his desire. She doesn't realize that she's slowly becoming emotionally dependent, like a mirror that only shines when someone looks into it. The more eyes that turn toward her, the more she believes she's radiant. Until one day, those gazes begin to fade. Not because she's no longer beautiful, but because this world obeys the silent law of youth. The light always turns toward what is newer, and when she realizes that all the eyes that once made her feel alive are now glancing past, a vast emptiness opens inside, one that no husband's love, no child's embrace can ever fill. Because what she's lost is not just attention, but the very foundation of identity that society taught her from the start. I have value because I am desired. And when that belief begins to tremble, her entire inner world starts to shake. No one sees it, no one hears it, but within her, a storm is forming, silent, deep, and very real. One day, she looks at herself in the mirror and suddenly feels as if she's staring at a stranger. It's still the same face, but the light is different. Still the same eyes, but the sparkle is gone. She can't explain why, she just knows that something inside her has fallen. For a long time, she believed she was strong. She had a family, children, and a job. Everything seemed fine, but fine no longer meant peace. She smiles, but the laughter no longer reaches within. She loves, but her heart feels silent. Amid familiar dinners and repeated conversations, she feels as if she's living a replica of her own life. And what frightens her most isn't aging, it's invisibility. The invisibility in other people's eyes and in her own. There was a time when she walked down the street with confidence, feeling as though every step carried the heartbeat of the world. Now everything is silent. No one notices, no one pauses, and even when someone does, her heart feels empty. She begins to ask questions no one else can hear. Who am I living for? How far have I drifted from myself? And do I still have time to return? She realizes that everything that once defined her, gentleness, sacrifice, diligence, were all roles she had been playing for years. She once thought that was love, but perhaps deep down, she was only trying to hold on to the feeling of being needed. And when people no longer needed her the way they once did, that role lost its meaning, and she no longer knew who she was. At night, when everyone has fallen asleep, she sits alone in the dark room. Looking around, everything remains the same. The wedding photo, the familiar belongings, but they all seem to belong to another woman. A woman who once believed in love, in family, in the idea that if I just give enough, I'll be loved. But now, she sees only an old soul searching for a way out. It's a feeling without a name, not exactly sadness, but emptiness, deep, cold, like falling into the void between two lives. No one sees it, but inside her, something is cracking silently without a sound, like a mirror shattering yet somehow still holding its shape. She doesn't yet know that this is the moment when the old self is dying, and when an old I dies, it takes everything with it. The marriage, the beliefs, the definitions of happiness, all collapsing at once. You know, sometimes crises don't begin in the soul, they begin in the brain, from silent biological changes that humans cannot control. At 20, when she receives a compliment, her brain immediately releases dopamine, the hormone that makes a person feel alive, seen, and desired. It brings a rush of joy, as if the whole world is smiling at her. But by 40, the body no longer reacts the same way. The same compliment, the same gesture of affection now produces only a faint ripple of emotion, subtle, brief, and quickly fading. Her nervous system has changed. The dopamine circuits that once lit up so easily have grown sluggish, like an instrument that hasn't been tuned in years. The things that once made her happy, family dinners, familiar gazes, are now just routine. Everything feels stable, safe, warm, but no longer alive. And do you know when a human being becomes most frightening? When they can no longer feel themselves. At that point, the brain begins searching for new ways to reactivate dopamine. A new message, a strange gaze, a compliment from someone outside the familiar circle. Just a small difference, and the brain lights up instantly, like a tiny spark in the dark night. It whispers, "This is it. This is the feeling I've been missing." And so, she becomes addicted. Not addicted to a person nor to love, but addicted to the feeling of being alive again. She doesn't realize it's only a temporary chemical reaction. A brief dopamine explosion, but after each one, her brain needs a stronger dose to recreate the same feeling. Like a thirsty soul drinking seawater. The more she drinks, the thirstier she becomes. This is the moment when biological despair turns into spiritual despair. She doesn't understand why she feels sad, why she feels empty, why her husband still loves her, but she still feels cold. She thinks she is lacking love, but in truth, she is lacking emotional activation within her own brain. That's why every word of comfort, every effort you make seems useless. Because you're speaking with reason, while what she's facing is biology. And the tragedy is, she doesn't realize it. She only feels that she's losing touch with life. And in her desperate attempt to feel alive again, she begins to drift away from everything that once anchored her. The home, the husband, the child, and even the woman she sees in the mirror. But do you know something? In truth, she never wanted to leave anyone. She's only been trying to chase the feeling of being alive before it disappears completely inside her. Then one day, in the stillness of night, she suddenly feels the urge to reopen old photographs. The ones yellowed with time, filled with faces that once glowed with life. She sees herself from 15 or 20 years ago. The radiant smile, the eager eyes, the hair catching sunlight in the wind. And suddenly, her heart tightens. Not out of regret, but because she no longer recognizes the person in the photo. She stares for a long, long time, as if trying to recapture her old soul. Who is this? She asked herself. That woman once believed in the future, once lived lightly, once walked out into the world feeling as though it was opening just for her. But now, She walks through roads that only repeat themselves. She starts retelling old stories about her youth there, her first love, about the days of being admired, pursued, about the impulsive moments that still make her smile when she recalls them. Her voice changes, softer, brighter, as if each story were a breath of salvation. Because within those stories, she rediscovers the self that once lived, once shown, and once was seen. But strangely, she doesn't tell them just to reminisce. She tells them to remind herself, I used to be like that. Because now, she no longer knows who she is. Every time she sees that younger girl, she feels like a house searching for its old flame. A soul trying to rekindle the part of itself that has gone dim. Then she begins changing small things. Buys the perfume she once wore in her 20s, changes her hair back to an old style, listens again to the song that once made her cry on the night of a breakup. Each act is an attempt to summon her old spirit, but paradoxically, the more she tries, the more she realizes she can never return there again, because that old self has dissolved with time, and the woman she is now stands between two shores. On one side, the past that makes her ache with longing, and on the other, the present that makes her suffocate. She is trapped between two versions of herself and doesn't know which one to choose. At 40, nostalgia is no longer just remembering. It's a kind of gentle despair. When one looks back and realizes that beauty, freshness, and desirability have gone away without promise of return. And from there, another longing begins to rise, to feel that aliveness again, even just once more, not forever, just once, to feel that she could still make the world pause with a single glance. That's when the past is no longer just memory, it becomes temptation. From nostalgia to change, there is only a very small step. Once memories begin to come alive again, they awaken the dormant desires that once slept within. And she, the woman who used to be calm, gentle, and steady, suddenly finds herself wanting to feel something again. A little novelty, a little excitement, a little sense of being alive. Then she turns to her friends, the women who have found themselves again, those who talk about freedom and about loving yourself first. It sounds beautiful, it sounds right, but beneath it lies a dangerous intoxication, the kind that makes people believe that true happiness exists outside themselves. They tell her stories of rebirth, divorces, travels, new love affairs, wild parties, unfamiliar gazes. They call it a healing journey, but in truth, it's a journey of escape, away from reality, and she, in moments of weakness, begins to believe that she too can start over. Then social media appears like a second mirror. She starts following women who seem to be living their dream lives, the smiles, the trips, the inspirational captions. But what she doesn't see are the empty nights behind those screens. She only sees the light, and that light makes the darkness inside her feel even deeper. Each scroll releases a small surge of dopamine in her brain. Each photo of someone living to the fullest makes her feel that something is missing from her own life. She starts comparing. They're my age and still so beautiful. They have kids too, yet they're still desired. And me, who have I become in this life? She begins to talk less about the present and more about the if only, the what if, and the I wish I had. She becomes more irritable, more melancholic, or sometimes the opposite, strangely serene, the kind of serenity that comes from someone who has quietly withdrawn from the game without anyone noticing. Her husband sees it but doesn't understand. He thinks it's fatigue, pressure, or age. He doesn't know that. Within that silence, there's a quiet migration of the soul. A part of her is leaving him, leaving the family, and moving toward a world where she believes she will feel alive again. And the most frightening moment is when she starts changing the way she tells her life story. What was once a beautiful love becomes blind sacrifice. What were once happy years become years of captivity, not because she's lying, but because her brain is rewriting memories to rationalize her current emotions. She doesn't realize she's slowly losing herself. Bit by bit, piece by piece, like someone leaving their familiar home, forgetting small belongings along the way until one day, looking back, everything that once belonged to her is gone. And that's when people begin to speak of her with the sorrowful sentence, she is no longer herself. From nostalgia and comparison, she begins to act, quietly, without announcement, just without changing a few small things. A new hairstyle, a different pair of shoes, a scent of perfume she once wore in her 20s. At first, everyone thinks she's just refreshing herself. But for her, it's more than that. Each time she looks into the mirror, she's not merely fixing her hair or touching up her face. She's trying to find her old soul again. The woman who was once loved, once seen, who could step into a room and make the air itself change. Now, she's trying to bring that woman back to life, even just a little, to feel that she still exists. She starts paying attention to the small details she once ignored. A wrinkle at the corner of her eye, a faint sunspot, a bit of skin no longer as firm as before. These ordinary signs suddenly become cracks on the mask of her ego. And with every new flaw she discovers, it feels like another piece of her is fading from the world. So she fights, not against anyone, but against time. A battle no one ever wins, yet people still enter it because they cannot bear the feeling of their own fading. She starts exercising every day, not for health, but out of fear. The fear of being looked at with pity. The fear of becoming someone's mother instead of someone's woman. The fear that no one will ever stop and notice her again. She eats less, sleeps less, buys more skincare, reads every article about anti-aging, tries every product she once thought was superficial. She's no longer trying to be prettier than others. She's trying to become beautiful again, as she remembers herself in her own memories. But what hurts her the most isn't the change in her face. It's the despair she feels each time she looks at herself and realizes all these efforts are only delaying the inevitable. Every time she steps outside, she sees younger women, freer, more radiant, more effortless, and a vague sadness rises within her, a quiet knowing that she is no longer the center of this world. From then on, her every action becomes urgent, like someone running a race against the clock inside her heart. She doesn't put on makeup to be beautiful. She puts it on to exist. She doesn't choose clothes because she likes them. She chooses them because they make her feel she's still in the game. And then, one morning, she looks at herself in the mirror. With her new hair, her well-kept skin, and her fit figure, she does look younger, truly, but in her eyes, there's something strange, a fear carefully hidden beneath the lipstick, a hollowness she can't quite name. Because she doesn't realize that all these outer changes are merely attempts to cover an emptiness inside. She's no longer fighting to be younger. She's fighting not to disappear. One day, she realizes every conversation between them now revolves only around small things. Did the kid eat yet? Have we paid this month's bills? What about the next trip? No more gazes, no more laughter, just functional dialogues, as if the two of them are running the same household but no longer sharing the same soul. He still loves her, at least he thinks he does. He still cares, still asks, and still notices every little thing, but that love can no longer reach her, because between them now lies a strange distance, invisible, yet thick enough for every word to fall to the floor unheard, uncollected. she begins to feel suffocated, not because he's bad and miuicheo, but because his safety feels like confinement. He's stable, grounded, dependable, but those very things at this moment make her feel trapped in a golden cage. She no longer needs protection. She needs to feel. She needs something to make her heart race, a surprise, a glance that makes her forget time. But he is no longer the one who can make her feel that way. He's too familiar, too gentle, too predictable, and she now craves a bit of chaos, a bit of recklessness, something that reminds her she's still alive. She starts to withdraw, pulling away from shared stories, from intimate moments, and even from her own heart. She no longer shares much, and when he asks, "What's wrong?" she just smiles and says, "Nothing." But deep inside, she's whispering to herself, "You wouldn't understand." He notices her change, quieter, colder, and more distant. The hugs feel forced, the gaze is reduced to politeness. She's still there, but not really there, like someone temporarily living inside her own marriage. And he keeps trying to love her the old way, not realizing that way no longer works. He brings her flowers, she smiles, says thank you, and sets them down. He compliments her beauty. She nods, but her eyes drift elsewhere. The more he tries to get close, the more she feels suffocated. Not because he's wrong, but because he's a mirror reflecting everything she's trying to forget. In his eyes, she sees the version of herself from years ago, the woman who once believed in home, who once believed that love was enough. But now, she no longer wants to be enough. She wants to feel alive. And tragically, the peace he brings has become the very thing that numbs her. At night, lying beside him, she stays silent, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, and wonders, if I left, would he notice, or would he just think I was asleep? The question has no answer, only a faint sigh, the sound of a soul quietly detaching from the love it once chose. No arguments, no anger, just a slow fading in silence. A kind of breakup without words, but one that hurts 100 times more than any fight ever could. Usually, when a third person enters a story, it doesn't begin with betrayal. It begins with a void. The void between two people who once loved each other, when words become meaningless and eyes no longer seek each other out. In that empty space, all it takes is someone to step in. Someone who listens enough, who sees her enough, who makes her feel that she's still worth noticing. And suddenly, every boundary begins to blur. It could be a colleague, an old friend, or a stranger who happens to say something that makes her heart tremble. A simple compliment. "You look different today." A gaze that lingers a little too long. A random message with no reason at all. Tiny things, gentle things. But to someone who hasn't been seen in a long time, they explode like fireworks in the night. For the first time in a long while, she feels alive again. Not alive in a role, but in a feeling. The feeling of her heart beating fast, of anticipation, of waiting for a message, the kind of feeling that a stable marriage no longer brings. She knows this is wrong. But her brain doesn't distinguish between right and wrong. It only knows alive and dying. And at this moment, that man, whoever he is awakening a part of her she thought had fallen asleep forever. At first, she tells herself, we're just friends. She texts, she laughs, she shares. And inside, she reasons, I haven't done anything wrong. But then, every time her phone lights up, her heart beats faster. Every time she hears his name, a part of her comes back to life. She's not addicted to him. She's addicted to the feeling of being chosen again. Her husband, though still there, is no longer the one who can make her heart tremble. He has become stability, while the other man, by simply showing up at the right time, has become the light. She begins living two worlds. By day, she's still the wife, the mother, fulfilling every role perfectly. But at night, in silence, she opens her phone, rereads the messages, and smiles. A smile her husband no longer sees. No act of betrayal ever begins with intent. It begins with emotional emptiness and someone who knows how to stir it. All it takes is one person who makes her feel that she can still be desired, and her whole rational world collapses. The irony is, she doesn't love that man. She loves herself in his gaze. She loves the version of herself that is still chosen, the version she thought had died long ago. And once she starts living for that feeling, deep down, the marriage has already begun to fade. No physical affair is needed. Once her heart leaves first, everything else is only a matter of time. And do you know what hurts the most? She doesn't see herself as wrong. She only feels alive again, while he, the husband who still loves her, can only watch bit by bit as the woman he once knew dissolves, layer by layer, breath by breath, and there's nothing he can do to bring her back. From that moment on, something very subtle begins to happen. She doesn't just change her actions, she changes the way she tells the story of herself. And this, though no one notices, is the doorway through which every tragedy begins. She starts to rewrite her past, not through lies, but by selectively editing her memories to fit her present emotions. The days that were once happy suddenly return to her, as years of endurance. Moments that were once sweet now become foolish naivety, and the husband who was once her soulmate now becomes the one who suffocates her. No one teaches her to do this. It's just that when the heart wants to leave, it will find every reason to justify its steps, so that when she destroys what was once sacred, she can still say to herself, "I'm not wrong, I'm just finding myself." The phrase, finding yourself, it sounds so beautiful, but in reality, it's often the cloak of spiritual rebellion. When a person no longer recognizes who they are, they will do anything to prove that they're still alive, even if it means destroying everything that once held them together. She begins to seek out people who can validate that feeling, friends who understand, who have been there, who say things that sound like salvation. You deserve to be happier. You sacrificed too much. It's your life. Stop living for others. Those words pour into her heart like sweet wine, warm, intoxicating, and full of logic. But beneath that sweetness is poison, because it makes her believe that liberation only comes through leaving. And so, she starts to rebuild her entire marriage story in a new direction, a story where she is the victim, and leaving becomes an act of courage. She no longer sees her own mistakes, only sees that someone else made her lose herself. She doesn't realize she's running away. She truly believes she is being reborn. But every true rebirth must pass through darkness, and she doesn't walk through the darkness, she runs from it. And by running, she doesn't see that this darkness is slowly following her, spreading over everything she touches. The husband now becomes a mirror of guilt. The more loving he is, the heavier she feels. The more forgiving he is, the more suffocated she becomes. Because his kindness forces her to see the truth of what she's doing. And so, to breathe more easily, she begins to paint him as the one at fault, not to diminish him, but to save herself from the weight of guilt. Every word he says now is misinterpreted. Every gesture of care is seen as control. She no longer listens, she only reacts. And every effort he makes, however sincere, inadvertently becomes evidence that she needs to leave. And so she begins to allow herself to do the very thing she once condemned. Not because she has stopped loving, but because she wants to prove I deserve to live differently. But that different life, in truth, is merely a reversed one. A life lived against everything that once made her feel safe. And while she believes she's finding herself, in reality she's losing her soul, piece by piece, moment by moment, not because she is bad, but because she is mistaken. The true self is not found in a new gaze, but in the stillness she lost when she stopped loving the present she already had. In the end, every intoxication must fade, and when it does, what remains is not freedom, but silence. She wakes up in a strange room. No more sound of her child calling mom in the morning, no more scent of the coffee he used to make, no more of those little habits that once annoyed her. Now the quiet she once longed for has become an emptiness no one can bear. The people who once cheered her on to live for herself are now busy with their own lives. The friends who texted, "You did the right thing," stopped replying after a few weeks, and the man who once made her feel alive no longer looks at her with that burning gaze. Because he never truly loved her. He only loved the feeling of being the special one in her story. She doesn't know exactly when things began to slip away. She only knows that one evening, standing in her new apartment, looking out over the glowing city, she suddenly realizes no one is waiting for her to come home. No sound of small footsteps running to greet her, no little voice asking, "Mom, are you happy today?" Only the hum of the fan and the cold air seeping through the window frame. She tries to comfort herself, saying she did the right thing, that she needed to live for herself. But every time she repeats those words, a strange ache stirs in her chest, as if she's lost something that can never be found again. And the children, they don't cry. They just grow quiet. They learn to smile when they are not happy. To hide the question, "Why did you leave, Mom?" Because no one wants to talk about it anymore. They grow up between two houses, but neither of them ever feels like home. She believes they'll understand someday, but some wounds don't need to be inflicted. Absence alone is enough. And the absence of a mother can sometimes hurt even more than being abandoned. The old house still stands. The wedding photo still hangs. The chair she used to sit on remains in its place. Only now, no one dares to touch them, because every object, every corner holds the memory of someone who left but never truly disappeared. She still comes back sometimes, brings the children, smiles, and talks to him like an old friend. But each time she steps out the door, something falls from her eyes. Not tears, but the last remnants of her belief that she was ever right. The freedom she found was nothing like she imagined. It wasn't flying. It was falling, silently, slowly, deeply. And the deeper she falls, the clearer she sees that the price of freedom is not losing someone else, but losing the very ability to love as she once did. Because in her attempt to find herself, she left behind everything that once defined who she was. And when she finally turns back to look, all of it, the man, the home, the children, has become a collection of cold souls waiting for her inside her own memory. There is a truth few are willing to admit. Men and women do not grow old in the same way, not only in their bodies, but also in how their minds respond to time. When a man turns 40, society calls it the age of maturity, the age of strength, the charm of experience. He begins to have status, financial stability, a confidence that youth could not give. He knows who he is, and somehow the world recognizes that too. Every gray hair, every wrinkle, it feels like a medal of growth. But for a woman, every wrinkle is an underline beneath the word youth. Society looks at her differently. At the same age, with the same depth of experience, instead of being called wise or elegantly mature, she's labeled past her prime, faded, and no longer attractive. Men age into value. Women age into debt. One is encouraged to keep moving forward. The other is told she should know when to stop. It's a cruel paradox she must live with, a game she never created, yet is destined to lose. When a man looks in the mirror, he sees stability. When she looks in the mirror, she sees disappearance. Not just the loss of beauty, but the loss of visibility itself. The world seems to look only at the flowers that are blooming, while those that are fading become the backdrop. And when the feeling of being forgotten by the world creeps in, the fear runs deeper than her skin. It burrows into her subconscious. If I am no longer beautiful, will I still be loved? That question, seemingly simple, is devastating for someone who was programmed from childhood to believe that to be loved is to be seen. So when she is no longer noticed, it feels like losing the right to exist. As for men, when they face middle age, their fear isn't about appearance, it's about achievement. They fear failure, fear falling behind, fear no longer being strong enough to protect, so their crisis manifests outwardly. Buying a new car, changing jobs, chasing passions, ways to prove, I'm still in control of my life. But for women, their crisis happens inwardly. It has no noise, no direction, and no clear exit. Just a hollowness, as if life had quietly ended before they were ready. And within that void, they begin searching for the only thing that can still make them feel worth something, to be desired. The same crisis, but different expressions. Men seek validation from the world. Women seek themselves through the eyes of another. Men want to prove, I'm still strong enough. Women long to hear, you're still beautiful. Two parallel paths that never meet, because he is reaching outward while she is lost inward. And that silent, unseen distance pushes them farther and farther apart. So when she begins to drift away from his arms, he thinks she's just going through a midlife phase, but in truth, she's fighting a primal fear. The fear of no longer being someone in this world, and no matter how much he loves her, he cannot love for her the part of herself that has gone missing. Because a woman's crisis doesn't come from no longer being beautiful, it comes from not knowing who she is when she's no longer admired. The truth is, she didn't leave because of him. She left because of time. Because in every familiar gesture of his, in every meal, every hug, every repeated conversation, she saw the entire stretch of her own life that had already passed. He is still the same man he always was, gentle, patient, and steady. But that very steadiness became a mirror reflecting her greatest fear, that everything in life, even love, can become too familiar, too calm, and eventually numb. Each time she looks at him, she doesn't just see her husband, she sees the whole journey of her vanished youth, the girl who once began with excitement, who once loved with madness, who once believed that love alone was enough. Now, when she looks at him, she sees all of that contained in his eyes. And the pain doesn't come from his change, but from the fact that he hasn't. He remains exactly the same, living proof that she is the one who has changed. Perhaps you won't understand, but for a woman who has been praised her whole life for her youth, who was noticed for her brightness, realizing that she is fading, it feels like watching her own soul fall apart piece by piece. She doesn't hate him. She just can't bear the feeling that every time he smiles, she's forced to face her own past self. He is the embodiment of stability, of time already gone, while she, deep down, is desperately seeking something new to convince herself that she still has the power to begin again. It isn't betrayal. It's an instinctive reaction to an existential fear. The fear that if she doesn't change, time will swallow her whole, that she'll become someone's mother, someone's wife, but no longer someone to herself. She looks around and sees other women, also running from the same invisible thing. That moment when they realize they are no longer seen, no longer the center, no longer the light. And to avoid that feeling, people will do anything, change, erase, start over, even knowing they might lose everything. In truth, she never meant to hurt anyone. She only wanted to escape the feeling of slowly dying inside, and sometimes to escape that feeling. People are willing to burn down everything that once felt like home, not because she's selfish, but because she doesn't know any other way to keep going. No one ever taught her how to grow old gracefully. No one told her that peace, too, can be a form of life. She thought living had to mean heartbeats racing, desires burning, eyes filled with fire. So when life became calm, she thought she was dying, and within that fear, the gentle, loyal woman suddenly becomes unrecognizable. She isn't running from him. She's running from the version of herself that he still loves, because she's no longer that woman. And as long as he continues to love that image, she feels as if she's living inside an old photograph. She wants to break free, not to find another man, but to find the feeling of being alive again within herself. But the tragedy is, in her desperate flight from time, she ends up losing the only thing that could have made her timeless, the kind of love that no longer depends on youth. And then one night, she sits alone in her own room, where no one calls her name anymore, where there is no laughter of her children, no warmth from the man who once walked with her through half a lifetime. Only silence remains, a silence so thick she can hear her own heartbeat and also hear the emptiness growing inside her. She looks around. Everything she once wanted is now here. Freedom, no obligations, no responsibilities, no one checking the time, no one controlling her. But strangely, within that freedom, she feels like a ghost, belonging nowhere, needed by no one, and not even knowing who she is anymore. That's when the truth appears. Clear, cruel, yet quietly awakening. She was never searching for her true self. She was chasing a feeling that once made her believe she was alive. Her true self had always been there, in the old house, in the eyes of her children, in the man who once looked at her quietly and said, "Come home." Only then does she realize peace is also a form of love. It isn't loud, it doesn't dazzle, but it is the place where time can't reach. It's when you sit beside someone and need to do nothing, yet still feel complete. The awakening comes late, but late is better than never. Because when a person finally realizes that's what they were running from, was never the old, but the part of their soul that once loved them most, they will understand. Freedom is not in leaving, it's in the ability to stay and still feel that you haven't lost yourself. She smiles softly, a smile both wet and light, not because of regret, but because at last she understands time was never the enemy. Time is just a mirror to show us who truly remains when everything else has changed. And as the morning light slips through the window, she stands up, unlocks her phone, and sees an old message from him. Just one line. "I'm not angry. I just hope you'll find yourself again." She breaks down in tears, because finally, what she had been searching for outside had always been there. In his eyes, the one she had walked away from. If you're still watching this, perhaps you too have witnessed someone change. Or maybe you've been through that same storm yourself. Remember, age never takes away anyone's worth. Only the fear of time makes us erase ourselves. And sometimes the bravest thing isn't to begin again, but to stay and learn to love your own life one more time. If this film resonates with you, subscribe to Mindora to continue exploring the human psyche together, where we understand, reflect, and let go. Leave a comment below. Share what you felt, because perhaps your story may help someone else find their way back to themselves.